Hi everybody, it's crazy, it's Monday, and it's time for the FBGE video of the week. Now before I get started, gotta give a shout out to my trust because you guys rock. To my crazy fam, I love you guys. Now we're up to episode number 91, and we left off last week on page 47. Let me switch on over here. There we go. Okay, so we left off on page 27. We did a little bit more coding. We actually did this right here, this code right here. We typed it all in, changed a few things, and did a couple other things. This right here is Blender, or Python, and also Blender Python. And this is C, all this right here, except for the shader part. Okay, that's C, and that's C. Okay, so if you want to get into coding, go ahead and I'll put it back up here. It starts my learned experience, which I work with Python. Teach you a little bit more about Python. It's slow paced, but this is how I work. And some people are slow to learn like I am, and I don't like to rush through something unless I have to. So without any further delay, let's get started. So last week we ended on, like I said, 47, and we got to 2D filters. I am going to switch back over to here for a second. We got the 2D filters right here, and that's where I'm going to start from. So we'll go ahead and get started from there. I'm going to switch to over here because I'm just going to be reading over here, so it makes no sense to, unless you're following along with the book. Okay, 2D filters are post-processing GLSL shaders that are applied to each frame right before it is displayed. 2D filters can be used to enhance the looks of the image and add special screen space effects. There are a few built-in shaders that come with Blender you can get to get you started. But 2D filters also allow custom-written GLSL shaders to give you the freedom to do potentially a lot more. Why use 2D filters? Using 2D filters makes it easy to tweak and tweak the mood of your visual without having to rework the lighting, material, or textures. Because a 2D filter operates on an image, the frame buffer, and not the individual 3D objects, the 2D filter's performance is not dependent on the complexity of the scene. Only the number of pixels on the screen and the complexity of the effect itself. Okay, GLSL fragment shader is the language that powers all of the 2D filters. Okay, and I'm going to show you some of the samples of what the 2D filters can do. Let me switch back to here. Okay, so these are what some of the 2D filters can do. It can do blur, can do, the God rays, as people say. Can do a lot of things. Can make it black and white instead of, colored. It can affect how it's looked upon. Okay, so the capabilities of 2D filters. Okay, apply effects such as sharpen, edge detection, anti-aliasing, and motion blur. Okay, so that's what's in this one right here. Okay, it can sharpen those trees up. It can give you a little bit of motion blur as you're moving, through the scene. Couple of little rainbows right there. You can see that. You still got it here, but it details it out a little bit more. Alter basic color attributes such as brightness, contrast, and color saturation. That's these guys right here. This right here can make it either very bright or not. Add screen space effects such as Gaussian blur, radial blur, light bloom, and distortion. So, you can change the hue here. You can get the distortion. Okay, so there's a lot of things. Okay, add cinematic effects such as depth of field, film grain, sepia tone, and lens vignetting. I always want to say vinaigretting because that's just, but it's vignetting. Simulate complex lighting effects such as ambient occlusion and light scattering. Okay, so basically this is some of the stuff that you can do with it. Okay. All right, how to use 2D filters. The 2D filters can be accessed as a standard actuator in the logic editor window. So what we're going to do is now we're going to get rid of these guys here. We're going to take that off. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that, and we're going to get rid of that. And this right here is what they're talking about, your logic editor. Okay. And it's in the actuators. So it's right here. And if I'm right, it's filter 2D, which is that one right there. If you are rusty on what the logic editor does, refer to chapter 3. And I'll post that up here somewhere as well. Okay, so that way you can, re-reference it if you've lost your spot. Okay, so I'll put chapter 3 back up there when we did some logic editor stuff. Okay, and it was just mainly looking at stuff you can do with logic editor, goes into more detail. Okay, to enable the basic 2D filter, add an always sensor. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to come over here, we're going to add an always sensor. Okay. And an AND controller and a 2D filter actuator. You don't have to add the AND controller because usually 9 times out of 10 you can just bring it over here and drop it. But a BGE doesn't like to do that, so you actually have to add the AND controller because somebody messed it up and has not fixed it. In 0.2.0 it still works. I do it all the time. But in 2.5b, not so much. Okay, so remember, let's see. And then link them together. Remember, even though you want the effect to be applied to every frame, there is no need to turn on the true pulse in the always sensor. You don't have to turn this on, okay? Because once the shader is bound or initialized, it will stay active until you explicitly disable it. Binding the 2D filter every frame will only slow down the engine. Okay, or slow down the game. So leave this off. Do not turn it on. Okay, so just leave it off, because once you start this filter up, it's going to stay started until you tell it, okay, I don't want to. When you put this in, says remove filter. Okay, say for example you're doing a drunken scene. Everybody knows that from GTA. Basically, you're going to turn this on, and when the timer runs out for you being drunk, it will come and say, okay, now we're going to remove this filter, and it will remove it. So that way you won't have to worry about it, coming or staying in there forever. Okay, but you'll have to re-trigger it again in order to get it to work. So whenever you're working with the logic bricks, you're going to actually have to do a couple little switches and fades, as they call it. Okay. It also does not matter which object a logic brick is attached to. 2D filter is a screen effect and thus does not depend on an object it is attached to. So you can attach this to the cube. Right now I have it attached to the cube, or you can attach it to the camera, you can attach it to the plane, any one of those. You can even attach it to you can even attach it to a light. It'd do the same thing. Okay, so it really doesn't matter which one. I just did it to the cube because most everybody's used to doing it to the cube or whatever the object is. Okay, but a good one to do it to is if you want to have stuff like your filters and stuff, you want to link them to your camera, because of the fact your camera is going to remind you, oh yeah, I got the 2D filter there. Instead of when you get 500 logic bricks on everything that you've got, and you've got to remember, where did I put that 2D filter? Oh, did I put it on the cube? Did I put it on the plane? Did I put it on a light? You'll get yourself into a grain of putting it on your camera. Anything that affects the camera, you want to put on the camera. Anything that affects lighting, you want to put it on lights. Anything that affects the object, you want to put it on the object. Anything that affects the ground plane or the scene that you're working on, which in the 2D filter does, but I'm talking about that individually, then you would want to do it that way. Okay, but since this is a 2D filter, we want to do filters on the camera. Okay, so I'm going to actually add an always, and I'm going to add an 2D filter. I'm going to come back over here to this one, and I'm going to delete all these because we don't want them to accidentally pop in. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my camera, and sometimes it'll work. Yep, see, that time it worked. Other time it doesn't. So sometimes you can bring it across, sometimes you can't. You got to fight it, and it's just ridiculous. But nonetheless, make sure you do not turn this on. You don't need to have it. Okay, and every time it starts up, you start your game, this filter will engage. Okay, until you turn it off. Okay, attaching a 2D filter logic to the main camera is a good idea. because it's an intuitive reminder that the 2D filter is a screen effect. Okay, and then I'm gonna see. Let's see. I'm gonna switch over to here. Okay, this shows you the same thing that you've seen in the UPBGE engine that we were just working with. Okay, and they've got a custom filter, so you can make a custom filter. Okay, we don't have anything. They call it the Uber shader, but we don't have it yet. We will do it here in a little bit. It doesn't have to use the mipmap, but mipmap is a very good thing. Dave will tell you about that if you ever go to our server. And the pass number is 0 right now. Okay, so let's go back over to here. Okay, so once you have set up the logic bricks, let's take a closer look at the 2D filter actuator. The exact function of each option in the actuator panel is explained in Chapter 3. So I will put that up here, okay? It's also explained, all that is all explained, on Chapter 3. So I put it up here somewhere. Actually, I put it back. So you might want to rewind a little bit, but I might put it up here just to be sure, just to be on the safe. Okay, so the pass number at the bottom acts like a layer, setting where the 2D filter effect resides. Each layer can only have one filter, but you can stack filter layers to get a more complex effect. Okay, so you can have pass numbers and have 3 or 4 of these. Okay, but you can't put both. Okay, you can't put both on layer 0. You have to have one or the other. Okay, you can put this one on 1. Okay, so this one will run first. This one will run second, I do believe. Just to make sure that each effect is a unique pass number so they don't override each other. Obviously, you can set up multiple 2D filter effects. More than one actuator is needed. Okay, so you can have to put up more than one. Okay. In the drop-down menu, you'll see a small section of predefined effects: invert, sepia, grayscale, motion blur, just to name a few. Select one and run the game to see how it looks. So, not that one. Keep doing it. Okay, so they're talking about all of these right here. So if you hit, sepia, for example, okay, and you run the game, you hit P to run it, notice that it's got that brown effect to it, okay? It automatically changes the effect, okay? You can do dilation, which really doesn't do much. Let's see, what's grayscale? Where's grayscale? There we go. Let's do grayscale. Everybody knows grayscale, right? There goes grayscale. Okay, so now you don't have to worry about, oh my God, I want to do this awesome scene, this cut scene to make it to where they're remembering something in black and white, and oh man, I got to do a whole scene in black and white. No, you don't have to. Okay, all you need is a 2D filter. Okay, let's see here. Let's do motion blur, but that ain't gonna do much because we're not moving. Okay, now if I add some logic to this, put an always sensor, do true level triggering, and then we do a motion actuator and connect them up, and then we do simple motion. Let's see, let's just run on the Y scale. Let's see, 0.001. Maybe that might work. But yeah. All right. So now, if we hit play, see how slow that's moving, real slow. Let's just try 0.01. Let's try that. I want it to go kind of quickly, but not too quickly, to where it takes off of the screen. You don't see it. But it's still too slow. Let's do 0.5. Okay. So as you see, you got a little bit of motion, tiny bit of motion blur. The more it moves, the more it will blur. Okay. Like when you're driving a car, it goes really, really fast, and everything starts blurring. Yeah, that's what that's supposed to do. It doesn't really do too well. Okay, say we wanted to sharpen that up a little bit. Now, it does it real sharp. Okay. Erosion. Kind of gives it that like wore out look. Okay. All right. So enable and disable turn the enable and disable turn a certain effect on or off. You need to supply a valid pass number. Thus, if you bound a 2D filter to pass number 5 at one point, you can turn off the effect with a disable or set the pass number to 5. Conversely, you can quickly turn the same effect back on by using enable. Okay, so what they're talking about is disable and enable. Okay. All right, so, and you would put your pass number here. Okay, the pass number, say if you did 5 and you did 2. Okay, that's what that would do. It would disable it at 2, but turn it back on at 5. Okay, so that's what that would do. All right, remove filter is similar to disable. It turns off a certain effect on a given pass number. Additionally, remove filter also completely unbinds the shader, making it impossible to enable the same filter, i.e. pass number again. Okay, so you want to disable, you don't want to remove, because they do have a remove filter that will actually kick this off, period. So you will have to re-enable it in order to get it to work, okay? Custom filter is used to specify arbitrary shaders. It is useful when the built-in filters can't achieve the effect you are looking for. To use a custom filter, Blender needs the same name of the text file. The text file must be one of the text data blocks stored within the Blender file. So you have to have it stored here, which would be like this shader right here, okay? With the pass system, with the pass system, you can make a very robust post-processing stack. You can set up a few filters to run on an always sensor to do some basic color correction and add the effects that will always be enabled. Then you can set up a few more filters that are enabled momentarily when you need them. Okay? See, where are we at? Yeah, we're almost at about 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Okay, so what we worked on today was this. Okay, we're just playing with the 2D filter in the logic editor. We haven't done a custom filter yet. We will do a custom filter next week. Okay, so I'm going to put that custom filter, and then once we get it, we're going to put it in here along with our other shaders. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That puts us at page 50. Okay, so that'll be the end of that part. Let me switch this back out. There we go. Okay, so ending on page 50, we're going to end with custom filter. We're going to put our own custom filter in. It's going to be pretty small, so I'm going to be able to do that in one video and go through it as well. Okay, so don't freak out like, oh my god, he did that one. Okay, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to go ahead and just do that small one next time. Okay, so page 50, custom filter. Till next week.